starting in October. Godzilla's Monsterpiece Theater, a new mini-series coming from IDW. Ask your comics retailer to set aside a copy for you. Speaking of comic books, we saw a recent comic book movie, Deadpool meets Wolverine. I don't know the actual title. It's Deadpool Wolverine or Deadpool versus Wolverine. Dude, Deadpool meets Wolverine.
Like Wolverine versus Deadpool.
Yeah, exactly.
And then Wolverine and Deadpool. And like,
I guess it doesn't, like, they communicated the message so thoroughly, like so clearly about, like, you know, what this movie's about and come see it or whatever, that it doesn't matter what the actual title is. It was kind of like The Flash. I wanted to see Michael Keaton as Batman. So with this, it was like, I like Deadpool all right. Like, I've seen all the movies and stuff, but I'm not like dying to see another Deadpool movie, but I want to see Wolverine. I want to see Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, and especially when you'd see the trailers and he's got the blue and gold costume that's like never been in a movie before.
Very exciting. It took like 20 years for us to get to that point.
We're going to talk about a lot of spoilers. This movie was huge. A ton of people saw it. It made $1 zillion. So, like, if you've already seen this movie, check out this video. Or if you don't care about spoilers, check out this video. But we're gonna talk
spoiler special here.
Yeah, we're gonna talk pretty freely.
It's the #1 R-rated movie of all time.
Oh, really?
It's made like billions of dollars.
When it started, it's like the sort of Deadpoolism, you know, the oh, aren't I so funny kind of stuff. And I was like, oh, what did I get myself into?
I was about to say, when he was doing I mean, don't get me wrong, once again, cheap pop.
Some of these superhero movies are just like legitimately great movies, and Logan was one of them. I like Logan a lot. It's also one of those ones, like, I mean, I like all this stuff, but it's one of those ones where if you talk to somebody about it and they're like, I don't usually like superhero movies, but Logan, like that was a good movie. Yeah.
I don't think I'm a Ryan Reynolds fan.
Seems like a nice guy. Yeah, just not my cup of tea.
Come on the show anytime you want. but I mean, you know, a movie star could just like carry a movie on their own. They're like just themselves. He has really like just done Ryan Reynolds in every single movie, and it's great. It's kind of like I'm at the end of my fucking rope.
It's baked into the movie and baked into the premise that Deadpool is annoying. Like that he gets on everybody's nerves in his world. Everybody in his world hates him, thinks he's super annoying and obnoxious. Even his best friends think he's super annoying and obnoxious, except for a couple, like he has a couple sycophants or whatever. Yeah. So it's kind of baked in. And then he's like rapid fire jokes. Most of them aren't funny, but maybe 1 out of every 10 or 20 makes you laugh. So you're on board. Like, they come so rapid fire that it's all good. So like they're not acting like he's this hugely like charismatic figure. They do recognize that he is very annoying, and that's kind of part of it. And so then that becomes like the chemistry between him and Hugh Jackman as Wolverine.
They seem to genuinely like each other.
Well, it was a real chemistry, and there is a real contrast there. And his sort of annoyingness kind of lets Logan shine and be like a super cool badass. Like, it kind of builds a really nice showcase, really nice frame for if it was just him. We've seen that. We've seen movies where it's just Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, and it doesn't always work. Some of the movies are better than others, but this like kind of was like, and again, that is like a classic comedic pairing. And sometimes they have like the wisecracking, jokey guy is also the super cool guy. And so then they team him up with a partner that really has like nothing at all to do. When the movie was first started, I was like, oh no, I'm trapped. Because in The Flash, it was a while before Batman shows up. So like, if it's that long before Wolverine shows up, I'm fucked. Like,
and then like, I love this, you know, I love all this stuff too. But there's like, nobody died in the, like, there's no, like, everyone just comes back or whatever. And there's a lot of regeneration. So there was like, it was like an anti-movie kind of.
Interesting.
Like,
yeah, it's interesting because this is all stuff I take for granted because, like, coming from comics, like, Wolverine regenerates. He has this healing factor. And the Hulk kind of had that before
Yeah.
him and stuff, but with Wolverine, it was like very specifically spelled out that this guy's got a healing factor. You can hurt him as much as, and if you hurt him really bad, it's going to take a while.
Yeah.
But he will eventually regenerate. And so it's just like, and then this sort of like next generation of comics creators who grew up with Wolverine and the X-Men and that brand, like kind of that became like the starting. It's like they baked that into their characters. So Rob Liefeld comes up with Deadpool, and it's like right off the bat, he's got a healing factor too, you know. And then Eric Larson comes up with Savage Dragon. Savage Dragon has a healing factor built in, so it was almost like after Wolverine, that's like a prerequisite to be a superhero.
But I love that shit too. Like I like how they both have like 99 lives. Mm-hmm. It's like a video game. Just turn those on instead of like on each other. I want to see them like fight other enemies that like don't regenerate. Yeah. Like they just fought a bunch of Deadpools to regenerate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's regenerators versus regenerators.
It was getting kind of like, what the fuck is going on?
For the longest time, like one of Marvel's points of pride is that they weren't involved. Like it wasn't like, oh, this comic takes place in this universe. And this, like, they all take place in the Marvel universe, and it's like everything affects everything else. And DC are the jerk-offs who are stuck with this convoluted universe that they've created, multiverse that they've created, where, okay, these characters, and it was like, okay, it's the 60s, and we have the Justice League. So what if Superman is like in his 20s in the 60s? Well, how could he be in his 20s when he was fighting in World War II, 20 to 25 years previously? So then they came up with the idea, oh, there's two different universes and stuff to account for that. And it's like, and it was, so you have a Superman who in the 60s is in his 40s and has, gray temples and stuff. But it just became this giant headache for them. And so Marvel, it was always like, it sucks to be you. But then they, like, in somewhat, like, I guess like the past 20 or so years, like the multiverse kind of stuff has been creeping into the comics. Now, I mean, it has been there for longer than that. Like, I mean, I don't want to go too far down this rabbit hole, but Roy Thomas, who is very controversial at the moment because of this like Wolverine movie, which we can go into in a different video. But Roy Thomas in the 60s, when he started, coming in as like a writer at Marvel, he was a fan of all that old DC stuff. Okay. So he started bringing like multiverse stuff into like the Fantastic Four, but it was never as like central or baked into the sauce the way it was at DC.
The movie just like whips along, and then I'm like, what the heck did I just see? Like it moves, and then you don't realize what just passed you by.
Yeah, I had it was another one of those ones. I feel like Black Adam was kind of like that too.
Yeah.
Where it's like I'm smiling, I'm having a good time, but like what is? I feel like the Marvel stuff does a better job because they kind of give you more. They give you like more of the fan service than the DC stuff. Like it felt like there was more than like the Flash or Black Adam or whatever. But and then they do eventually tie it up in a way that is like satisfying.
Yeah,
like they did like some classical stuff like as it ramps up.
Dude, I mean when Blade showed up, I almost lost it.
Yeah, lots of cool cameos. Like the way Marvel has ended up with a multiverse in the movies is that, okay, we have movies that are made that aren't part of like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, like Fox ones and the Sony ones. And so that's the impetus, that was like the real world thing that sort of necessitated like a multiverse approach for them, as opposed to like DC, where it's like, okay, we have these characters who fought in World War II and they're still running around in the 60s. It is interesting seeing that how like, okay, I guess like the multiverse is like a central part of Marvel now.
Yeah, different Wolverines running rampant. I was actually praying that I don't know why I think about this guy all the time, Dougray Scott, the original Wolverine.
Tell me.
So Dougray Scott was he was cast as Wolverine, but he passed it up to be the bad guy in Mission Impossible 2. If you watch Mission Impossible 2, that's the original Wolverine. Okay. And I mean,
because I'd always heard about Russell Crowe turning down
Ray Scott's like the nailed on guy.
He was there. It was
and
like Eric Stoltz.
Eric Stoltz in Back to the
Future.
Future. I mean, he has a great look, and he's a good bad guy in Mission Impossible 2, but like, we would have got a Hugh Jackman Wolverine.
Yeah, Hugh Jackman's so great and so iconic. And when I first like saw like the pictures of him, like it's hard to think back to that, but I remember thinking like, this guy looks terrible. That's why like nowadays, if there's like one of these superhero movies coming out and I see it and it looks terrible, like I'm gonna go see it anyway, because it was the same thing with the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man suit. I thought that suit looks like shit with all the mesh on it and stuff. And then I saw the movie and loved it. So yeah, I'm not doing. I stopped doing that a long time ago, like sort of judging these things. But yeah, Dougray. So yeah, that would have been a good inside, maybe a little too inside baseball. But they did do a lot of that stuff. There's this whole montage of Deadpool going to all these different universes, finding all these different Wolverines, trying to like nail down the right Wolverine.
Who's the big shaggy Wolverine? He had like the beard around his head. I can't remember that guy.
He looked kind of like Snake Plissken Wolverine or something. But I think he was supposed to be like Ultimate Wolverine from like the Ultimate Universe, but I don't know, like I don't know the ins and outs. Like he was very cool. Like he looked like a post-apocalyptic Wolverine. You know what? I was just thinking, like, how about the return of Liev Schreiber as
Dude, I was gonna say that.
Sabretooth?
I was looking for him throughout the movie. We saw Tyler Mane from the first one, but
they did a nice job. And when they go, because again, some of the like MacGuffin-y kind of stuff in some of these movies, it's kind of like, I don't care. But I liked, they end up in the void, which I don't know if that's like a thing in the comics or not. I don't recognize it, but I do recognize this idea from the comics, especially like Alan Moore comics, but this idea of like this limbo universe where when something gets taken out of continuity, it ends up there. That was like a big part of Alan Moore's Supreme. So that was really cool. And there was some fan service stuff that meant a lot to me. Like when they have the 20th Century Fox logo there, like I don't care. I'm some people are fans of like the comic book movies and that's it. So I think that kind of stuff is like for them. But they have the sort of like Road Warrior caravan.
Oh yeah, that was cool.
One of the vehicles is the classic bathtub Fantastic Four, Fantastic Car, and I love that classic bathtub. And I've been doing those Fantastic Four Fridays videos. Just had a new one this past Friday, and like I love that bathtub. And everybody makes fun of that bathtub as being like a bad design. That like Jack Kirby came up with like a better Fantastic Car design like a little later, which he did. But that bathtub splits up into 4 pieces that can all fly independent. Like that's pretty cool. And we've never gotten a toy of that. All these years of like Toy Biz and all that stuff. Yeah. We do have like the Jack Kirby's second Fantastic Car, which is pretty cool and does split up into pieces, but we never got that bathtub. And I loved seeing that bathtub. Like I was so excited when I saw that show up. And then it's supposed to be this surprise reveal. I didn't realize it was a surprise reveal because then Chris Evans shows up and I'm like, oh, there's Johnny Storm. Like I just saw the Fantastic Four bathtub. Now there's Johnny Storm. But it was supposed to be like, you were supposed to think it's Captain America, and then when he like rips off his,
I'm a pud.
His cloak, yeah.
I fail for that
because it's like I saw the Fantastic Car, and then I saw the black collar, and it's like okay, yeah, cool. There's Johnny Storm. Like
I was even more excited to see. Johnny
Storm. I like
there.
seeing Johnny Storm, and he's kind of played for laughs, Johnny Storm, and kind of played off as like, oh, he sucks, because like the Fantastic Four movie kind of sucked, but it's like you can also reclaim this stuff. You can also be like, oh. We're going to do Johnny Storm right. Like, they blew it with Johnny Storm before, but we're going to show you how cool Johnny Storm can be.
I was kind of disappointed he was, turning the jokes on.
Yeah, he was kind of like, Mort of the Month or something. Yeah, he was turned into like, oh, remember this piece of shit character, Johnny Storm? Doesn't he suck?
He's like, does the check clear?
And yeah, Jennifer Garner returns as Elektra.
Dude, I've never seen that. I'm planning on it's on Max, I think.
Yeah, I saw Daredevil in the theater. I saw Elektra in the theater. Elektra was very underwhelming, as I recall. But I'll give it another. But she was good. I mean, she was good in the role, and it was nice to see her back. Like I assume, like I don't really know what she's been up to lately. I mean, maybe she's been in all kinds of stuff that just hasn't been on my radar. But I always loved the show Alias. I thought she was amazing on Alias. That was like for a while. That was like the best show on television,
My mom
hands
watched
down.
that.
Other than Felicity, which was another show that she had like this really good recurring arc on Felicity, which is how she got the J.J. Abrams thing. Yeah, it was so good, and it never caught on. Like it never made it in the ratings, and I felt like they're doing it all wrong. Like. Just to go on an Alias tangent.
It's got to be streaming somewhere.
It was so cool, so state of the art. It was last night. Like I had watched it not too long ago on streaming, but it was so state of the art, and it's like this is a cool, hip, fucking of the moment show. But it was on Sunday night. Like it was on when like Murder She Wrote would be on, or Our House with Wilford Brimley. Like that's not where you put your hippest show. That's where you put like the grandma, the shows that you watch.
60 Minutes is on Sunday night.
Yeah, exactly. You don't watch exactly. You don't put it on, but they put it on Sunday night. And the thing that blew my mind is around that time, it was like, oh, don't put anything up against Friends. Friends is a juggernaut. You can't put anything up against Friends. But I feel like around that time, Friends was starting to show its age. Like now it's sort of come back around, but there was a period where people were like, fuck Friends, that show sucks, that show's yesterday's news. Like it was kind of long in the tooth, but everybody was scared to put their best shows up against Friends because they thought it would just like be like that. Yeah. But I feel like if ABC would have put Alias on up against Friends, they would have ate Friends lunch.
Yeah,
like they would have taken it. Yeah, exactly. But they didn't do it, and then it just kind of fizzled out.
I feel like, how many seasons did that get? 3, 4?
Yeah, 2 or 3. But it never, it should have been
bigger,
colossal. But anyway, yeah. So I like seeing that. It was getting me thinking, like, if they had Jennifer Lopez show up as like an alternate universe Elektra. Which I'm guessing that's why Ben Affleck didn't show up as Daredevil, because I know he and Jennifer Lopez are no longer together, and I know that he and Jennifer Garner are, although they're exes, they are on good terms from what I understand. But it would I think maybe it was it would have been too much to have those two have to be like 2 dressing rooms away from each other.
They're like, Daredevil couldn't make it, but he left his signature, and it's Ben's back tattoo on the wall. It's like scrawled on the wall. It's this weird phoenix tattoo. They're like, looks like Daredevil's having a midlife crisis.
I avoided spoilers on this pretty well, but I did, I saw, a little glimpse of Gambit.
Gambit looked fantastic.
Yeah, and it was fun, and his hair and his
perfect
thing was kind of yes, it totally nailed the look of the comic, but it was still kind of a joke, Wolverine, he's kind of got this Australian swagger. Hugh Jackman's Australian, and then when Deadpool's doing a little puppet show, he's talking in an Australian accent because it's Hugh Jackman.
They're Deadpool's so meta.
Yeah, he's very fourth wall breaking, but I feel like the icon of Wolverine was sort of designed as it evolved, of course. When he takes his helmet off, his thing, he kind of evolved to be this sort of Australian kind of character. And the name Logan is even kind of Australian. When there's a Logan who shows up on Baywatch, he's Australian, you know what I mean? And then the first X-Men cartoon, he has an Australian accent, which everybody's like, aha, that's so stupid. Why's Wolverine got... Because at some point in the comics, because John Byrne is Canadian, he establishes, or Chris Claremont, or both of them, or whatever, it's established that Wolverine's Canadian.
Yeah. He called someone a hoser.
Yeah.
He likes Bob and Doug McKenzie.
Which I always felt like Canada hasn't embraced Wolverine as their superhero.
I feel like he slipped away. He's gotten away. They should have
I feel like they could embrace him, and I feel like Wolverine is more I feel like Moneyball or whatever. He's undervalued. Wolverine, yes, he's overexposed, this and that. Yeah. But I still feel like he's hugely popular. I feel like Wolverine is more popular than Superman. Maybe not as popular as Batman, but a lot closer than people think. I think he's probably, like, him and Spider-Man are kind of like neck and neck to be like the top Marvel characters, but people just don't get it. And I feel like Canada has not embraced him as like he should be their Captain America or their Superman, but he's not. And when I've mentioned this to Canadians, when I've said, I feel like Wolverine is Canada's Superman. And they're like, no. Superman is Canada's Superman because Joe Schuster is Canadian. He's as Canadian as Canadian bacon, as maple syrup. Like, no, like, it's Superman, like, no. I get, yes, I get what you're saying, but Superman is kind of like this, like, American icon. But like, why not embrace the guy who's even bigger than Superman and is spelled out in his like mythology as being specifically Canadian, but you know.
Superman represents the red, white, and red.
Yeah, exactly.
And like Wolverine's on Canada's money. I'm a Canadian. I'm up in Canada and I get their dollar and it's like it's Wolverine going. It's Hugh Jackman too. He's like,
but I feel like they're missing out by not going all in on Wolverine, because that is like, to me it's always been kind of quirky that he's Canadian, like, and it doesn't quite, again, he should be Australian. I am Logan works a lot better than he there. I'm Logan.
It's going to be Labatt Blue or whatever.
Yeah. And then there's all these Canadian jokes in the movie about like Ryan Reynolds is like, he's like the worst Canadian exporter. Like there's all these Canadian jokes, but it's like they don't seem to mention Wolverine.
Is Deadpool the character Canadian?
I don't believe so. I don't believe he's, unless he is like a full-on Wolverine clone. But I don't believe he is. I don't believe he is. But Ryan Reynolds is definitely, as is Ryan Gosling.
You know,
sorry guys, sorry. There's the big reveal in the movie, and they were so smart for saving this. And it's one of those reveals that's like so obvious, and it's like you're disappointed in yourself for not predicting it, not like going down the list. Okay, I think I'm going to see this. I think I'm going to see that. When it's like the climactic battle and things are about to go down, it's the slow-mo sequence that you see in the trailer, and Wolverine and Deadpool are stepping out in slow motion, and then Wolverine starts to pull up this little hoodie.
Oh, yeah.
And then he pulls it over, and it's like the Wolverine helmet, that like the mask, and it's like everybody popped.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And
huge cheer
for me. Like I was like, wait a second, that's what we've been missing. Like, we never
put two and two together.
Me neither. It's like, yes, we've had 20-some years of Wolverine in cinema and him being like lots and lots of movies, and never once. I mean, yeah, he's never been in like the blue and gold, but we've never seen any kind of version of that mask.
It's incredible.
It's like. It's like when you deprive somebody of something for like years and no water, and then it's like, oh, it's so delicious. And that has not been part of the iconography of the cinematic Wolverine, that thing. But we have, a generation or two where the cartoon, the video games, all that stuff, like that mask is front and center. And that blue and gold outfit is like, that's part of that, like, it's all front and center, but then, and if you've read the comics and stuff like that, but the cinematic experience has been denied. So that was like the ultimate fan service, and they were so smart for saving it. And it was like, okay, if there was, like, I was already on board with the movie by this point, but that like seals the deal. That's like, yes, this movie was worth seeing just for that. And they kept him in that for a while too. Like he kind of stayed in it for a while, and it worked. It worked, and he had these kind of like white eyes,
like the comic kind of.
Yeah, like the comic. I'm sure they tried every imaginable variation, but I'm curious what like just eyes showing through would have been. But they gave him the white eyes, which Deadpool has had that through the whole movie, and you've seen him like squint and open his eyes and stuff. So you've already sort of bought into that. And then it's like, okay, Wolverine's got it too.
Hugh Jackman does the Michael Keaton like dark makeup around the eyes.
Well, because that's when one of the very first episodes of the Total Recall show, we talked about the script for the first Michael Keaton Batman movie, and that was in the script that Batman had these like white
I love those
that covered his eyes, so it was going to be part of Batman too.
Logan, what are you dressed up like Wolverine?
You got more than your share of like ass kicking and stuff.
Love it.
Lots of cool fights. The MacGuffin was kind of fun too. Like the moment, And yeah,
My favorite performance in the movie was whoever the actor that like Hugh Jackman.
he had Oscar scenes in it, and it's
Yeah.
like, yes, this is a silly movie. It got serious at times too, but this is a silly movie. This is a silly movie, but like he had scenes with like real gravitas.
Yeah. And I was on
Performances,
I was on the lookout for like a mail-in. I was
Right.
specifically looking for how is he going to mail this in?
He did this movie reluctant. Like that's what it seems like. It sounded like it was reluctant. Like he's like, because he did say like, "Hey, I'm done with this. I'm done with this." And then somehow they convinced him to come back, and thankfully he did. Again, if he didn't, Russell Crowe, you know,
Dougray Scott would have filled it.
Dougray Scott, and again because they had the multiverse, and in some of those multiverses, you know, like Henry Cavill plays him and stuff. So I feel like if they didn't get Hugh Jackman, they could have maybe gotten Henry Cavill or Ridley or you know, somebody to do it.
Wait till you see what Dougray Scott looks like.
Okay, I'll have to check it out. I'd be like, okay, that's the guy. Well, because they also have like short Wolverine.
Yeah.
Which is like truer to the comic. And some of the people who even draw the comic kind of forget that and make him like tall. But yeah, he is supposed to be like this scrappy little guy.
When you were talking about Australian Wolverine, like I thought that like over time since Hugh Jackman was playing him, they strayed from the original and just morphed him into like tall Australian Wolverine.
I haven't gone too deep into like Wolverine lore and like his origin. Like I have the origin story hardcover. I just haven't read. Like I started it a little. So you know he's hundreds of years old or whatever by the time we meet him in the comics. So who knows? I mean, he could have lived, gone like, here, gone there. Like he spent some time in Australia, spent some time in Canada. You know, like okay, I'm born in Canada, but that's kind of complicated.
It's me, Logan. I've seen Crocodile Dundee 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
Nightcrawler. Hand me a Foster's.
I mean, that's how I feel with all of this stuff, though. It's like whatever's going to bring the most convincing performance. So why not let Hugh Jackman use his
I love Hugh
accent?
Jackman. Oh my god!
Like why not just let him use his regular accent? And then Doctor Strange, okay, Doctor Strange is supposed to be like, from New York or whatever, but just let Benedict Cumberbatch use his accent.
I love it.
It'll work. It'll work with the character.
Yeah, Doctor Strange is like, I'm walking here. Like,
well, because what Benedict Cumberbatch does in the Doctor Strange movies is he does a Midwestern accent. Like he doesn't nail like
Mid-Atlantic,
not Mid-Atlantic, Midwestern. Like he sounds like a housewife buying cheese at the supermarket. It's like, oh, don't you know? Oh, could I get some of that there? Cheese. Oh, don't you know?
He sounds
like Francis McDormand in
Fargo.
Fargo, yeah. If it's either Midwestern housewife or a British accent for Doctor Strange, I think British accent works better. If I watch it again, there'll probably be a lot of fast forwarding because same thing. When I watch The Flash, it's the same thing. It's like just fast forwarding to like the Michael Keaton scenes. But great villain.
Oh, I was about to say
Cassandra. What was it? Cassandra
Charles Xavier's sister.
Charles Xavier's sister, but she had like a name. It was Cassandra something.
She might have given the best performance in the movie.
Yeah, she was really good. She was a good villain, and also somebody like we haven't seen it in the movies. Cassandra Nova. We haven't seen her in any of the movies, but if you read the comics, she's got like a pretty big presence in the and she's got a pretty big presence in the comics that were made concurrently with the X-Men movies. So it's kind of like So if you were watching the X-Men movies and then reading the X-Men comics, like you knew who Cassandra Nova was.
That was the first time I ever saw her. It was like great performance.
Yeah, she was good. Yeah, she's pretty formidable. Like an evil Professor Xavier. Like she was pretty formidable in the comics and
pretty cool gimmick of sticking her hand through some people's faces.
Yeah,
that was visceral.
They kind of linger. They'd linger on it a little bit, and it did work. It did work. Lots of, like we just scratched the surface with this. I'm Tom Scioli, author of Jack Kirby: The Epic Life, the King of Comics. I Am Stan, a graphic biography of the legendary Stan Lee. And Godzilla's Monsterpiece Theater, a new series from IDW coming in October. Please tell your local retailer to set aside a copy for you.
I'm Matt Zeoli.
And we'll see you next time.